Hello, Hannah the Suburban Witch here, and today we are doing episode 4 of my tarot reading FAQs series. These questions have been submitted by you, my followers, over on my Instagram story, and I've compiled them all together and answering them for you here today. If you have a question that hasn't been answered, please make sure to DM me or simply pop a comment below and I'll add it to the list for the next episode. In today's episode, we are going to be answering the following questions. How to integrate shadow work with the tarot. How to know when you're ready to read for others. Is there a limit on how many readings or cards you can draw in a day? Do I need to ground myself before, during, or after a reading? And lastly, how can I get more acquainted with my tarot deck? If you're new to my channel, I'm Hana the Suburban Witch, an intuitive tarot reader and astrologer, and I love bringing you witchy content here on YouTube every single Wednesday. You can also find me over on TikTok, Facebook, Patreon, Instagram, and also on my website suburbanwitchery.com, where I have a blog. Question 1, which is how to integrate shadow work with your tarot reading. This is totally going to depend on you and the type of shadow work that you are doing. If you're unsure what shadow work is, it's basically a pulling back of your external layers and looking deeper within, rooting out through your belief system, your subconscious, your ego, your fears, your worries, all of that stuff, pulling it all out, taking a good look at it, shining some light on it, and seeing if it's something that you should be keeping as part of you, if it's a positive thing you've pushed down and hidden because of society, but really it's something that's authentic and bring it back up, or if it's something that you need to heal and move and work through from. So depending on how you do that, a lot of people love to do shadow work with journals. That's personally my preference. Journaling with it is really, really great. And what can happen is sometimes we come up against a block. So you may have figured out something that is bothering you or something that you know you need to work on, but you're not really sure where to start, how to do it, or what the root issue is. And that's a perfect time to bring in your tarot cards. Remember, you can really ask them anything that you like. I will make a mention that it's probably best to choose the right deck for this as well. If you just have one deck, use what you have. If you have a couple of decks, you're going to want to make a choice based on the style and themes of the deck at hand. For example, I have the Dark Mansion Tarot. This is a quirky Tim Burton-esque style tarot deck, and I wouldn't use this one for shadow work just because it's almost a little bit too quirky and fun, and it's meant to be a bit more lighthearted. Even though it is kind of dark looking, it's not for that true in-depth introspection that you'd want. A deck that I would recommend for it may be something like the Two-Tone Tarot deck. I have the shadow version. It also comes in a light version. Simple, straight to the point, and it's not going to beat around the bush, basically. A Rider-Waite-Smith is always a good choice. I also have the Shadowscapes deck, which for me is more for spiritual questions, so that would fall into the shadow work component. However, it is more of a love, healing, self-healing. It's a lighter, more positive touch to it. So, you know, if I was going to choose, if I was feeling vulnerable, I'd be going with this one. If I was like, no, tell me how it is, I'd go with this one. So that's just a little tip on choosing the right tarot deck for this style of work. So basically, you're just going to ask questions such as, why am I blocked in this area? And then pull a card. Or you may ask questions like, I've identified this. How can I move forward? How can I heal this? How can I integrate this? How can I remove myself from the situation? Those sorts of questions. So again, it's going to depend on your particular type of shadow work, but you can absolutely ask the cards to help you through some of those blocks and help you through your journey. Another way to use them is to ask things like, am I ready to go here? Because shadow work can be, we can re-traumatize ourselves if we have trauma in our past. Okay, so we need to be gentle with ourselves. We need to go slow. We need to use a licensed therapist if we have access to that. Shadow work is almost DIY therapy, and it's not always the best form to do by yourself. And that you're going to have to go with yourself and trust yourself on that one when you need some extra help. So sometimes you can ask the tarot something like, am I ready to open up that box? Am I ready to go to that next step? Do I need to take a break? Those sorts of questions are going to be really great for helping you with your shadow work journey. And shadow work never ends. It's something that we should be doing all throughout our life. It's basically just reassessing where we're at, why we are the way we are, and if we're happy with it and feel authentic. So I hope that helps. Question number 2 was how to know when you're ready to read for others. This is a fantastic question, and it comes in 2 parts. The first one is reading for others in general, meaning if you are giving a free reading to your best friend or your sibling or your parent or friends and family, where you're not charging them and you're open with them about your experience level, like, hey, I'm just starting out, can I do a reading for you? Can I practice my skills? That you can do whenever you feel ready. So you might do that the week you buy your tarot deck. I remember I bought my first tarot deck, the Shadowscapes one, and I think that night I worked on it myself, but the next night I went straight to my husband and said, do you want to pick a card? So I straight away jumped into how does it feel doing it for someone else as opposed to me. But it's up to you. You might be a little more shy in your practice and want to get a bit more experience first. It's just your learning style and your comfortable state that you're in as well. Now, if you're wanting to take yourself pro, then you need to make sure that you know every card, that you do not falter. You do not have to go to a book to look up the meaning when you draw a card. You do not have to reference anything in Google. You simply can see the card and know what you need to say or what that response is. This isn't to mean that all pro readers will never get stuck on a card. Sometimes it feels like there's a block there, and that happens, but it shouldn't be happening all the time. That should be a very rare occasion. So you need to know how to read every single card on its own and weave them together as well in a confident manner. The other thing when it comes to reading for others is you need to make sure that you have customer service skills, and if you're charging someone, you need to make sure that you understand the customer service that goes with that. If they're not happy with that reading, what are you going to do? Are you confident in handling that situation? If somebody, is asking questions that you're not comfortable answering, how are you going to handle that as well? So you need to have that level there as well before you put yourself out there on the pro area. And lastly, if you are charging for your services, you need to make sure that the readings that you're giving are accurate and that you have basically proof to yourself at least, or with others, that your readings have come back and been reliable and truthful and resonate with people. So the best way to do that is to garner your experience with people you do not know, potentially in an online space, maybe a Facebook group, something like Tarot Nerds, which is a tarot study group, and you can practice with other people that you don't know for feedback, or even working for a psychic group. That's where I started with both of those options. And that way it not only gives you the confidence and lets you know when you feel ready, but it also gives you the experience with a range of different questions, a range of different people, and connecting with people all over the world as well. So that's invaluable. Is there a limit on how many cards you can draw in a day, and also how many readings you can do? Again, this will be a two-parter. So the first one is if you're just doing it for yourself, there's no limit. There's no rules out there around the tarot. It's your deck. You do with it as you please. However, it is a spiritual tool, so you don't want to be relying on it for all of your free will and giving away your power to the tarot deck. If you need to ask your tarot deck what you should wear, or what you should eat, or what you should be doing throughout the day, every single day, that is an unhealthy dependency on your tarot deck. If you are wanting to pull cards just to study and you're just so inspired and you want to keep pulling cards and asking different questions and diving into it because you're exploring that world of tarot, that's a different energy, right? So that's totally different. You can do that all day if you want to. If you're feeling really, obsessive about it, I have to know, I have to pull all these cards and see all the patterns and write about it, that's a really good energy for learning your tarot deck. And I would say go for your life. Now, if you're reading for other people, there's no limit, but you need to really feel into yourself and your energy. I know for myself, as I've progressed in my pregnancy, I'm currently in the 3rd trimester, I've had to really pull back on my readings. I can no longer do my 1 hour readings, my deep dive reading, because it absolutely drains me. It's just too much energy for me to be doing. So I can't do that at all. Whereas previously I could probably do 1 or 2 of those in a day. But again, I did limit myself because my energy, it's not that it gets drained, it's It's the mental side of things, it's the connecting with someone else, and you just need to trust yourself and where you're at. So if I'm doing smaller readings, I can do a lot more of those rather than the bigger ones. It's going to depend on what comes up in the reading as well, and the energy of the other person. Sometimes there are people that when you connect with them, you can really feel that. Other times it might be difficult to connect. So there's a few factors there that are going to determine how many readings you can do in a day. When it comes to an actual reading with a client, there's no limit to how many cards you can pull. If you do something like Lenormand, which is a different type of reading cartomancy, they pull out all the cards, so just go for it, do whatever feels right for you. Do you need to ground yourself before, after, or during reading tarot? Grounding is an essential practice. I do it daily. Now, I make sure, and if you've ever seen me go live on any of my platforms, which I do when I hit one of the big numbers, I did it 5,000 here on YouTube, I'll do it at 10,000 as well. What I do is I'll often be, okay, I'm pulling a card, and then I say, hold on. I need to put my feet flat on the ground, push that energy back down. Because when I'm doing a lot of readings and connecting with a lot of people, sometimes I've got hundreds of people on those lives, and it's a lot of energy. And it can come right up into that crown and third eye chakra, and I feel it rising. I get all pink and hot in the face. I need to push it back down into the ground and ground myself, come back into the present moment. Otherwise, my energy just goes a little bit crazy. So I do recommend doing it whilst you're reading. And I'll often do it just before as well. So I'll take a moment before going live, or if I'm reading for a client, I'll take a moment before we, set up the chat, or if we're doing that via a Zoom call, or if they're sitting down with me, I say, okay, just a moment. I'll sit there with my cards. Ground, center, come back to me. And then we begin. And it's just a way of getting yourself back to zero, basically, so you're not bringing any of your additional energy into that reading and into that card pull. At the very end, you can, if you're feeling that energy is still a little bit out of whack, it's a good idea to ground. Again, try and see what happens. If you try it one day and it doesn't seem to make a difference, then don't bother doing it again. If you do it and you're like, whoa, I have to do that every time, that was amazing, then continue doing it. And you can ground however is easiest for you. Sometimes you may just wear a hematite bracelet or have a black tourmaline, and that's all you need. So it's up to you how you prefer to do that, but I definitely recommend using grounding as part of your practice with your tarot, especially when reading for other people. For yourself, not always as important unless you've been doing some really big reads or some really deep emotional reads as well. And the last question for today, how can I get more acquainted with my tarot deck? Well, I've recently done this. I just got the two-tone tarot deck. If you want to see, I do have the unboxing video already up on YouTube. Now, with this deck, what I did, obviously I unwrapped it, did my unboxing video. You would have seen me actually unwrapping it and looking through the cards. That's just your first glimpse. That's just you looking at it. You're like, okay, cool, this is what it sort of looks like. Then I slept, well, I'd cleansed it beforehand, but then I slept with it under my pillow for a couple of nights. Quite a few nights. I think I forgot it was there. Quite a few nights under my pillow. Pulled it out, and then I did a couple of readings for myself, for my husband, just to see how it sort of felt, how it vibed. And then I did something called a deck interview, and I'm going to be filming another YouTube video on exactly how to do a deck interview, but you can do it however you like. I have my certain way. That's usually I start by pulling out a few of my favorite cards, a few of my least favorite cards, sort of feeling into why that may be, what's coming through those cards for me. And then I'll ask a few questions to the deck itself and let its personality come through. Because as I've said before, they all sort of have their personality. Some I'll use only for spiritual or healing or those sorts of readings. Some I'll use for work and career. Some I'll use for everything. So it just depends on the deck and the energy that it brings. And it's a really good way to get acquainted to it. Another way to bond is to carry it around with you. Pop it in your handbag, pop it in your pocket, take it where you're going. Let it sort of feed off your energy and you feed off its energy and just sort of be in each other's presence, okay? So that's really good. Also, popping it on your altar is a really great way to make it feel a little bit more special as well. So I hope that helps. Make sure if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the button below so you never miss one of my videos. I'm going to be filming quite a few just to get me over through the New Year's period when I have my little bub. So there may be a time there when I am not replying to as many comments at the time, just because I will be, feeding a newborn and in that sleepy newborn phase. So just stay with me. I will get back to all of your comments after that. But in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely Christmas, a lovely New Year's, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.